Hi, I'm Dr. Paul Louis Metzger, and I'm the director of New Wine, New Wineskins. Welcome to New Wine Tastings, where every week we'll have an opportunity to engage people from diverse backgrounds, all in the attempt to build relational bridges through Jesus in contemporary culture. We are desirous of the opportunity to engage in deep and meaningful ways, and we're really thrilled and excited to have you with us. So we're going to start off with just reflecting on this theme of empathy, and not to shut down, but to really get that empathy generator going in our society today as we seek to have the heart of Christ. And as we reflect upon the heart of Christ and Christ's empathic concern for others, we need to think of those who we hear about in society who are often shut out, as I said earlier, and shut in the midst of this social distancing, physical distancing with the shutdown. And I was struck by an article I read recently, and we'll start with Jimmy here. I was struck by an article where it discussed how people in the African-American community, it's not only the African-American community, but many in the African-American community are hit in a sense with the double blow because of historic structures and the like, with a lack of opportunity to get the kind of health care that's needed, whether it's with diabetes, whether it's with heart disease or other matters. It plays a part with the distancing that one might have in advocacy and access to healthcare. There's also suspicion. The article I read said there's suspicion within the African-American community because of such things as Tuskegee and the like. So when you have a history with disease based on historic structures that are often, I'm often clueless about, but those historic structures that lead to inequities, maybe poverty, the article said, comes into play because of, again, those structures that put up walls between people. And we're not always intentional about those things, but those things are often there present because of systemic structures that put up barriers to us. Jimmy, can you speak to this issue and add to it from your own vantage point as a pastor and as someone who's been a musician and also someone who engages in a variety of diverse communities?
Well, the first thing I would say is, as you mentioned, social distancing, and I often like to think in terms of spatial distancing, in that I grew up quite a distance away from the suburban area of town that was occupied by primarily whites. And for me to ever go to the good hospitals or the malls or something, I had to cross into another territory, basically. And it's something that people don't think about, being in certain areas that's just familiar to them. They don't think in terms that other people, it's not always that familiar to them. And sometimes it can be challenging to traverse the amount of miles needed to go to access things like healthcare. And another point I would make that you made was about suspicion. Ironically, I just had a physical this week, and my doctor is from India. And she was talking about this and talking about that, and we brought up a couple of points, and then she asked, "Why do you come back so much?" And I said, "Well, doc, it's because I trust you." And it's not so much that I don't trust other doctors who might be white, it's that we have a history of medicine being two-tiered, in that there's a different way of looking at the anatomy and the physiology of white people as opposed to people of an ethnic group. In fact, I put in my latest book that there was a disease that was thought to be endemic just to Black Americans called Dysesthopia apiatica. And what that disease, how it manifested itself was in rascality. And it was only Black people that had that. Well, that was kind of an outlier of common practice in medicine, but it was there nonetheless. And so you never know when you're walking into a doctor's office whether you're getting somebody who ascribes to that theory and how they're going to diagnose whatever condition you have. And so there are a lot of challenges that come into play when you're dealing with like something like the coronavirus for different people, because there's a perspective, well, I should say a perception that it is going to be a different kind of challenge for people of different groups.
And, with what you're saying, Jimmy, it just tells me that I need to be more sensitive. And I need to somehow think outside of my own frame of reference, my own experience, to listen well to others so that we can. Let's just say we all want everyone to have accessible, affordable healthcare and the like. Well, let's just say we all want that for everybody. Well, but that doesn't mean everyone has it. And I need to be thinking, what can be done and what can I do to make sure that I'm reaching out in my own limited role, that I'm reaching out, that I'm trying to do what is possible to me to engage people and articulate the issues, even like we're trying to do here, to make us more aware and more empathic on these subjects.
Yeah. Well, also we need to keep in mind that African American people have 1/10 the disposable income of their white counterparts. And when it comes to just a normal checkup or going down and having this procedure, we think we go to the doctor when we have to go to the doctor, when we need to go to the doctor. Looking at medicine in a preventative sense is kind of a luxury. And when you have very little disposable income, you have to pick and choose. Therefore, if you do have problems such as diabetes and high blood pressure, things that can be controlled and maintained, Black people are less apt to have those maladies under control just by sheer nature of not going and having those every 3-month follow-ups, because you have to pick and choose what it is you spend your money on.
That's really striking. And, if we had opportunity, we could talk about inheritance and just, some of the factors that play in there in terms of, going all the way to this